up, everyone? Welcome to the Fun with Friends podcast. I'm your host, 𝗴𝘂𝗲𝗀𝗄𝗏. I hope you're all doing well and having a wonderful day. Joining me on today's episode is Cheryl Woodhouse, and she's founder and lead designer at Tactile Design Co. and creator of the Solo School, and she's also a digital nomad, I guess, of sorts, or nomad or nomadic, however we want to say it. But Cheryl and her family are doing that RV life, which is what we are going to be talking about today. So thanks so much for joining me.
Yeah, I'm super excited to be here as the resident neurodivergent traveling weirdo.
That might be the best description that I've ever heard. I love it. And you've been a guest on my other podcast as well, where we talked about how to kind of create a business that is like stable and that is kind of running for you so that you can live this kind of lifestyle. So I'd encourage anyone listening to this episode to go and find that episode on the Wondering Creatives podcast, because Cheryl's, a wealth of knowledge about setting up a business and how you can kind of make it work for whatever lifestyle you want. So I'm thankful to have connected and to be able to have you on again on a different podcast. So thanks again.
It's really great to be able to cover both sides of the story because, yes, we travel extensively and live tiny and do all these strange, awesome things, but it wouldn't be possible without building the business the way that I did it. So to be able to cover both, I thank you for that.
Yes, and I'm extremely interested in learning more about RV living. It's something that I have thought about doing, even if just for like the summer, kind of trying it out, but I haven't been able to yet. And I'm a little, I guess, hesitant to do it, especially by myself. But I'm hopeful that all the info you're sharing today will kind of give me that boost in confidence to try it out, because it seems like it's a really interesting and fun type of life to have.
Yeah, it really is. And I'll tell you right off the top, there is nothing that two people are better for that you can't accomplish with a backup camera.
That's one of the things that I worry about a lot, is being able to drive. But to get things started, I guess, so you have yourself, your partner, and you have 3 children and a dog. So I think when people think of like RV living or the RV life, they often associate it with maybe just like couples or people doing it solo, but you have, the full family out there on the road, living that life. How long have you and your family been RV living?
I think 5 or 6 years, somewhere in that range of time. Yeah, we've been doing this quite some time.
Oh, nice. That's wonderful. I was curious about that because I feel like, especially on social media, right? You get like a snapshot of people living like this. And I'm always curious, is this something they do all the time? Is it every now and then? Is it a summer thing? Or have people been living that nomadic lifestyle for a numerous number of years? Numerous years. So it's kind of cool that you've been doing it for 5 or 6 years. That's impressive.
Yeah, it's something we definitely debated changing on and off for the last 2 years because of various you can't travel anywhere and you're stuck in one place reasons. Mm-hmm. But we did as much traveling as we could through the thing that shall not be named. And now that everything's easing up, we're definitely itching to get back out there and quite glad we stuck with it.
Yeah. What was that deciding factor that was kind of it for you? Like, what was that moment where you were just like, you know what, we're moving, we're not going to live that, I guess I'm going to say quote unquote traditional lifestyle. And we're going to go and be mobile and start living on the road and kind of exploring. Like, what was that moment?
It was such a, I say, gradual, sudden thing that happened. It was very much a neurodivergent YOLO kind of moment when we finally made the decision. So for context, like we had been camping since we met, my husband and I, and he proposed to me while we were camping. And we were usually backcountry campers. So hiking somewhere with a tent, set up, cook your stuff over a little tiny backpacking stove, have campfires with found wood, enjoy your weekend and go home. And after we had kids, that really slowed down a lot for us and we missed it quite a bit. And this is a lot of while I was building up my freelance business and trying to make that work. And after he lost his job, there just wasn't the finances to really go camping with 3 kids. And then we got an RV membership. I don't know if you're familiar at all with RVing, but there's this company called 1,000 Trails. And they own campgrounds and resorts all across the US and one in Canada. And when you buy this membership, you actually get to access all of their stuff, basically unlimited. And my grandparents had this membership. They had brought us to their Canadian park campground camping when I was a kid, and they gifted us the membership when they retired from RVing. So we were just going to go out and tent, but YOLO, we bought a tent trailer. We had the cash. I landed a big freelance client. And so we went out and we bought a tent trailer. We went camping over May long weekend. It's Victoria Day weekend in Canada. It's kind of the unofficial kickoff to camping season for Canadians because the snow's finally gone. And so we went camping up at 1,000 Trails in this tent trailer and we stayed for 2 whole weeks and I just worked from there and the kids went to preschool from there and we were out for a week and then back for another 2 weeks because that's part of how their system works. You have to be out of each campground for a week before you can come back. And we essentially did that from that May long weekend until just after Thanksgiving, buying a larger trailer along the way and spent the majority of our time in the tent trailer and then the trailer just camping and enjoying being up here. And at that time, we only had 2 kids. I got pregnant with our 3rd the next year. And we got our seasonal site, which meant we didn't have to move our bigger trailer anymore. And we could use it for 6 months out of the year as much as we wanted to, come and go as we please. And so that year, we basically spent the entire summer from, I would say, May 24th-ish to Thanksgiving at the trailer. We weren't even at home. We had 10.5 acres of property. So you can imagine what happened to 10.5 acres of property when you're gone for 5 months.
Oh, yeah. Wild.
Yeah, it went very wild. It was very overgrown. And now this was the 2nd year of having to go back and clean up this property in the fall. And the rental market was just going absolutely nuts here, as it has again now. And we were like, okay, we want to look at something else. We don't want to have this big property anymore. We want something smaller and easier to take care of so we can spend more time camping. But I'm not feeling what the rents are right now. Maybe they'll go back down again in the fall. We're not going to use it over the summer anyway. What if we just went to the trailer for the summer, put everything in storage, packed it all up, and just go there just for the summer, and then we'll rent a new place in the fall? That was, without realizing it at the time, the pivotal moment, because we haven't been in a house since we left. We started the summer, and we had like a 24-foot bunkhouse travel trailer with no slide outs. It was something like 125 square feet. It was ridiculously small. We had 2 toddlers and a baby, or 2 preschoolers and a baby. And at that time, we had 2 dogs. And it was fun, but it was interesting navigating that small of a space. And then we started seeing these families online. There's actually a membership called Full-Time Families. And there are tens of thousands of families, just like ours, all across the US and Canada that travel full-time in RVs. It's not just couples. There's so many of them. And when I saw this and I started learning more about what they do and how they do it and how they, everything just works, we were at that point now unschooling our kids through this amazing program called Self-Design here in BC. Everything in our life just already fit that lifestyle. My work could be done from anywhere. The kids were already learning from anywhere. We were already camping all of the time. So we bought a bigger RV and we went south, and we haven't really looked back since. We've just kind of been bouncing around. We keep our seasonal site here because in BC, legally you have to be here for 6 months to keep your health insurance and your the kids' schooling. So we keep our seasonal site so we can be here as much as we want to out of that 6 months and not have to worry about getting reservations or having a place to go. But other than that, we bounce around and we have fun.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Like, I love that it was such a like natural kind of progression for y'all. Like, it seems like that's kind of the way to do it, where,
Yeah.
maybe you do regular camping, I guess, and then kind of step it up a little bit and then step it up again. And then
Yep.
before you know it, you're full-time RV living and just, oh, it seems so amazing. Just like being able to pack up and go wherever you want to go, whenever you want to go. Like, I think that's the thing I find the most appealing about that kind of lifestyle, is just literally having the freedom to kind of go wherever you want to, whenever you want to.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. As we're talking, I'm sitting here looking at my desktop background and remembering, oh yeah, that's Moraine Lake, which is a lake just outside of Banff, Lake Louise, which is amazing Rocky Mountains in Canada. And I took that picture on a Monday, a random Monday in August, because we were there, and it was a work day and a school day, and that didn't impact us at all. We just went for the hike, and no one was there, and we just got to enjoy it. It was so sunny and beautiful.
That's so amazing. And I don't know. I'm like in my mind, I'm like in an RV right now. So I'm disassociating into the RV life currently as we're recording.
That's funny. I actually am in an RV right now.
Oh my
No, I'm just
gosh.
kidding.
I can't believe as well that you said you started with one that was like 100 and some odd square feet
Yep.
with
Yep. It was super tiny.
5 of you.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't even know if I could do that small with just myself.
You know what? I will say there's so much wasted space in houses. Like you don't really realize it when you have one, but my bedroom, we didn't move from a small house. We actually moved from a 2,800 square foot house that was a downsize from our previous 3,800 square foot house. So we were not tiny living before this. But every function that fit into our 2,800 square foot house fit into 125 square feet. We had a toilet and a sink and a shower, and we had beds for everyone, and we had a spot to watch TV, and we had a place to wash dishes and cook food. I was baking in the oven, making bread and cookies and pizza, and we fit everything in that space. Obviously now we have a bigger fifth wheel. It's like a 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath with laundry hookups in the kitchen, and we have 425 square feet. It's coming from 125 to 425. Now it kind of felt like a mansion at the time.
Yeah.
But there is nothing in our fifth wheel that is missing. You know, there's a spot for a dishwasher if we wanted to add one. There's a spot for a washer dryer if we wanted to add one. I have a pantry that stores all my brooms and my dry goods. I have a residential side-by-side French door fridge with a water dispenser. Like, I have everything.
That's nice. I'm like, yes, that sounds glorious.
I've got a 70-inch TV in this thing. We sit way too close to it.
Than a lot of folks who are in like apartments right now.
Yep. I have the whole thing wired up with smart home technology, so I can tell you know who to turn lights on and off and the whole bit. Like we have a nicer setup here than we had in our home.
And I guess to clarify a little bit, and especially even for me, I'm not sure I'm familiar, I guess, with like the RV terms or types, but is a fifth wheel, is that one that where you pull it behind a vehicle, or is that one that's like fully its own vehicle / home?
Okay, I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes, like 101 tutorial on the different types of RVs, because one thing, yes. Everyone who wants to do this lifestyle calls everything a camper, but a camper is actually a specific type of RV, so that confuses all the experienced people. Okay. So there's essentially two big categories of RVs. There's ones that need a truck and there's ones that are a truck. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay, so the ones that are a truck, they have their own engine, they have their own axles, but they're really hard to park in cities and things like that. So if you want to tour around as you're traveling, you need to tow a vehicle behind you or drive a second vehicle, which gives you like 8 or 10 tires, 2 engines, multiple drivetrains and transmissions to worry about maintaining as you're traveling. A lot of families choose not to go that route for that reason. Those ones tend not to have car seat certifications. So if you have younger kids, you can't just strap a car seat into a dinette in a motorhome. It doesn't work. Those are all called motorhomes. There's Class A motorhomes, which are the big, monstrous 40-foot bus conversion looking things that you see all the retired people driving down to Florida every year. They usually have a little tiny 2-seater vehicle towed behind them. They're wonderful if that's your lifestyle, not so great for families with kids. You have Class B motorhomes, which are those are camper vans. I don't know why they call them Class B motorhomes, but it's a van. Okay. Yeah. And then there's Class C, which kind of has a pickup truck front and a trailer attached to it. Okay. If I could describe it that way. So it's like a van, but it looks more like an RV on the back end. Yeah. They're kind of mid-size, mid-range, really popular with families if you want everything all in one. But again, the dinette thing is kind of an issue, and you can't really bring them into towns and like park them in downtown, small town America and go exploring because there's no parking spaces for you. Mm. The other side of things is the separate RVs that need something to pull it or carry it. In that category, ranging from the smallest to biggest, the smallest ones are truck campers. Those are the ones that actually slide into the back of a pickup truck. Mm. Okay. So you might have seen those. They basically turn your truck into a motorhome, into a Class C motorhome, right? Because it kind of looks the same. We have one of those, and we use those for our road trippy kind of trips. It's got a queen size bed on the top and a dinette that folds down in the middle, and that's it. And hubby and I sleep on the dinette, and the kids sleep 3 across on the top. And it doesn't matter because we're outside all day and we're road tripping. Those are really popular with couples. Those are really popular with van lifers who do overlanding type stuff because trucks come in 4x4. Vans often don't. Okay.
Oh, good job.
Then you got the travel trailers, which is experienced RVers call those the bumper poles or tail draggers because they actually hook onto a hitch that essentially sits behind your truck, and you can pull it along. Those are popular actually with bigger families because there are some really big vans, and there are like Ford Expeditions and things that are 7-passenger vehicles that can tow smaller travel trailers. So if you've got 5 kids and not 3 and you can't fit everyone in a pickup truck, that's a popular option for you. They have way smaller tanks, way less storage, and they're just not built for long-term use as much as fifth wheels are. They also tend to be smaller. Okay. Fifth wheels are the ones that pull behind a pickup truck, but they kind of go over the bed of the pickup truck and drag behind. Okay. They call it a fifth wheel because the hitch on the front is the same as what hooks up to a semi-truck. Okay. But you don't need a semi-truck to tow it. You just need usually a 1-ton pickup for one as big as ours. And yeah, you hook it up over the bed of the truck, which gives you the ability to hold more weight, more cargo, more stuff. They usually have a bit of a basement in the front. It's called a basement. It's basically a crawl space, but it gives you a ton more storage. So we keep tools and lawn chairs and all the outside stuff in there. So it's not inside all the time. And we have underbed storage as well, which with a travel trailer, the basement and the underbed storage are usually the same thing. You lose a ton of storage that way. Yeah, they're typically built a lot stronger, built a lot bigger. You can get fifth wheels up to like 45, 47 feet long now that have L-shaped kitchens. You can get toy haulers that have 20-foot garages in the back, so you can bring your motorcycles and your ATVs with you, but they have bunks that come down at night for the kids to sleep in. Ours in particular has, as I mentioned, 2 bedrooms, 1.5 bathrooms, residential fridge, laundry hookups, all that kind of stuff. Those features typically aren't found in travel trailers. They're only found in fifth wheels.
Wow. I had no idea.
Well, now you do.
I knew there were a lot of different types, and especially because I've been like researching kind of what I'm interested in, which I think would be a Class C, where it's like the truck, it looks like the truck on the front, and then, you know, like that's kind of what I've been looking at. But yeah, when you were saying fifth wheel, I was like, I'm not sure I know what the difference is between that and like, you know, is that the one that's pulled behind the vehicle or is that one that drives itself? You know, yeah. So that, thank you. That was extremely helpful.
Extremely detailed and likely overwhelming. Yeah.
No, I was like, yeah, I'm right there with you. Now I can, when I go into my daydream about RV living, I can actually picture the right type of RV now.
There you go.
Oh my gosh. And so besides like the type of RV,
Mhm.
like if someone's considering trying out the RV life, or maybe they've, sampled it, tried it maybe for a summer or something, and they're looking to buy one now and go full-time RV living as you all do. Besides obviously the type of RV that would be, maybe right for them based on their living situation or family
Mhm.
situation, what else should people consider when they're looking to start living that RV life?
I mean, there's the basic stuff like how many people are going to be living with you. So like how many beds do you need? I always opt for a second bathroom because I live with a man.
Mm.
It's just it's a thing. It's reality. You will find as you get further into conversations with RVers, we do talk a lot about bathroom things. It is a primary concern. So
Oh
we'll
yeah.
just get that out of the way now. But really, one of the things I wish I had thought more about is your traveling style. Okay, so there are multiple styles of RVing nomads. There's what I call like the hub and spoke travelers who will go to a city, they'll park their big RV, and they will use that as a home base to explore the whole region. And they'll go to anything within a 2 to 3 hour drive as a day trip from their RV and come back to it kind of like a house. So it's a lot like they're literally moving house from destination to destination. And they'll stay there for 2, 3, 4 weeks, sometimes even 2, 3 months in the same spot or the same area, exploring that region, right? Those types of people usually get RVs that are very big. They're not as easy to tow. They're not as easy to find campgrounds that fit in them. They always go to campgrounds with full hookups, that other kind of thing, because that style really dictates that sort of RV and that sort of campground, right? Thousand Trails is actually really good for that because they're usually not in popular destinations, but they're adjacent to popular destinations.
Okay.
So you can park there with your full hookups and go explore. On the other end of things, you have more like the van life vagabondy style of travel, which we've actually found now we tend to prefer more, where you kind of hop. You hop 2 to 3 hours and you explore that area, and then you sleep at night and you wake up in the morning and you drive 2 to 3 hours and explore the next area, and you don't keep coming back to the same destination. That type of RVing requires a lot more facilities for what's called boondocking or dry camping. So having solar, having good batteries, having bigger tanks so you can hold more of your water and things like that with you becomes really important because you're not always going to have the pick of the litter when it comes to campsites. Sometimes you could even be sleeping at rest stops and have no hookups or facilities at all, right? You need to consider if you're doing that type of travel, can I get to everything I need to get to without opening my slide outs? Because if I'm sleeping in a rest stop or if I'm sleeping on the side of a highway or in a Walmart parking lot because I have to get where I'm going, I can't open everything up. So, can I get to the kids' bedroom? Can I get to the bathroom? Can I open the fridge without having to open up the entire RV and take up multiple parking spaces? Staying under 30 feet, if you can, if that's your travel style, is really, really important because that's a restriction on a lot of national parks, actually, is 30 feet. All the coolest spots don't take RVs under or over 35 feet and usually not over 30 feet either. So that's a consideration. We do both. That's why we have both types. But you really got to think about like how you want to travel, where you want to go, how frequently you want to move before deciding on what type of RV you want. And just keep in mind, everyone trades in, upgrades, or buys a second one, usually within the first 3 years of their RVing journey. I have not met a single person who hasn't. So no decisions are permanent. Buy something the first time, either that's going to suit most of your needs and you can add on a different RV later, or buy something used so that you can get out of it easily without too much, depreciation and lost cost that way if you need to upgrade to something else later.
That makes me think, because something I've been struggling with is I'm definitely more of the first type of traveler. Like I want to be able to go somewhere and kind of like settle for, like a month, maybe two, and just like really dig into the place and explore and like, really kind of get as much out of a location as I can.
Yeah.
But I also want to be extremely mobile and have, be able to, so I want to be really mobile. I want to be able to spend that time like really exploring a place. And I don't want to have like I don't want a huge RV. I want a smaller one that still kind of gives me all the benefits of a big one. So that's been my struggle really, because I'm like, how can I marry these kind of like two, they're almost opposing lifestyles, I guess, maybe together to find kind of the right mix for what I want to do. So that's been my challenge.
Yeah. And it is challenging. Like I said, we ended up settling on two completely separate RVs for those two needs, right? When we did the Rocky Mountains, we did it as a road trip, and we stopped in, I think, 15 different cities and spots and went to parks, and we visited with people, and we slept in driveways and rest stops and municipal campgrounds. And that would not have been possible in a 40-foot fifth wheel. I'll tell you right now, it would have been doable, but not fun. And it would have cost probably twice as much in fuel. But then at the same time, when we go south, one of my favorite moments when we're like, we do the snowbird thing. We usually go between kind of Orange County area and NorCal for most of the winter, most years, 2020 and 2021 forgiven. And when we go there, my favorite part is always when I can go to the grocery store without needing Google Maps. Like when I get to that point, I feel like a local, like I feel like I'm familiar enough. And like, this is like my second home. This is my second area. Like you could drop me in Menifee, California right now, and I would probably know how to get to most of where I need to go. Cause there's a great 1,000 trails there where the kids all go in the winter and they play in playgrounds. And so we really enjoyed that. And you can't do that with a truck camper, because on the rainy days, on the cold days, on the long days, when you're parked in one spot for 2 weeks at a time and you're not doing as much exploring because life gets in the way, 85 square feet in the back of a pickup truck is enough to make you want to kill someone.
Even when you're by yourself.
Yep. You could go very, The Shining.
Yeah. I could definitely see that. What's something that surprised you about RV living, or kind of, or being nomadic, I guess, either of those or both, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I never get homesick. Like never. That was shocking to me because I grew up very, very sheltered. I'd never really traveled anywhere. I had basically spent my entire life within 100 kilometers of where I was living when we decided to do this. So it was very much out of character for me to be like, yeah, YOLO, let's go to Southern California for the whole winter. But I never get homesick. And people, I feel bad. I feel like it's part of the neurodivergence though. Like if I don't see it, it doesn't exist. I don't see home, so it doesn't exist. I don't see all my friends and family, so they don't exist. I basically ghost everyone while we're traveling because it's out of sight, out of mind. And I only see what's in front of me. I see the next adventure. I see the next hike. I see the next lake, the next waterfall. I'm super drawn to water. I do, rivers, lakes, and oceans constantly. And I just never want to come back.
I feel that. I'm like, I do agree. I think it's like the neurodivergent thing where it's just like, if I don't see you, or like you're not around me, then you don't exist. Like it's nothing personal. It's just how my brain works.
Yep, exactly. And when I explain it to my friends, they're like, oh, I'm sure we'll hear from you. And then they don't for like 3 months. And they're like, well, you did warn us. Yep, I did.
You're like, I told you. How much planning do you guys do before you go on trips?
So, like so many things with RVing, it depends. It depends on which rig we're bringing, honestly, because a 40-foot fifth wheel takes a lot more planning to get reservations and hookups and campgrounds that can actually fit you. 1,000 Trails specifically, they have like this window where if you're trying to book something within the next 90 days, you have to wait for a cancellation. Everything that is not freezing cold is full. So when we go south, I usually start booking about 120 days in advance, and we plan out our 2 to 3 week stays ahead of time. And we plan where we're staying, but not necessarily what we're going to see while we're there. We just kind of plot out what we're going to use as the home base, and then we decide when we get there what we're going to do. I tend to only book 2 week stays in most places because longer than that and I get bored. Yeah. So the full-timers, Yeah, the full timers call it hitch itch. You just get antsy and you got to hook up and go somewhere. Camper, though, we tend to be a lot more like send it and see what happens. The first time we took it, I booked every stop out for our entire trip because there was like national parks that usually have 6-month wait lists involved, but it wasn't needed. It really wasn't. We went to Vancouver Island. Now, granted, this is low season. If you're traveling anywhere in the middle of the busy season, so South Florida, pretty much from October to May, you want to make sure you're booking in advance. In Canada, that's from May to October. You want to make sure you're booking as much in advance as possible because everything's full, right? But we just went to the island in March, and I went on Google Maps and like saved a bunch of things I kind of wanted to see into my saved list. And then we went to the ferry terminal and we were like, okay, which ferry can we get on? And we went over, and then, we ended up having a sailing wait. We went over, we spent a night at a provincial park, and then we went to one of the spots I wanted to go to. We literally just bounced around. There was one day, it was like a Saturday or something. We'd had a beautiful sunny day in this little town called Campbell River. And hubby had really been wanting to go to a place called Port Hardy. It's the furthest north point you can drive to on Vancouver Island. And we were bored and we didn't know where we were going to stay. And it was only like 2 or 3 in the afternoon. So there were still hours of daylight to get through before we would want to settle in somewhere. So we said, the hell with it. Let's go to Port Hardy. So we drove like 2.5 hours up the North Island Highway, a bunch of it being a dirt road to the farthest north you could drive on Vancouver Island. Found a campground, stayed the night, had a fire, met a resident there who was absolutely fabulous and gave us some firewood and sat and chatted with us. And then went back the next day. And it was great. That's part of the fun is like, yes, you can plan out a whole ton of it and know what you want to see, but also sometimes not planning it makes it more fun.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I feel like it's kind of a nice mix of planning and then also being spontaneous. So I think that's another kind of like pro of not only RV living, but kind of just having that mindset of like, you know what, we'll get to like our primary location, and then from there, we'll just let life take us where it's going to take us.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong, because I am slightly neurotic and very much a type A person who also has ADHD, so I ignore the details but plan everything.
Yes.
I have like 17 apps on my phone, like iOverlander, freecampsites.net, Free Roam. I can give you a list. These are all the places. These are all the apps that tell you what campgrounds are around you, where there's water hookups, where there's sani dumps, where there's propane refills, so that no matter where I'm going, like we can be on the way there and I'll be like, oh, in 𝗁𝗲𝗔, there's RV parking sites down the side of the road, walking distance from a cute little cafe. You can stay there overnight and they don't bug you. We'll go stay there for the night and then we'll go sani dump at Country Maples RV Park just down the road in the morning on the way to our next stop because we'll head south. And like you can do that kind of planning on the fly if you have the setup ahead of time.
Yeah, it's being prepared.
Yeah. I call it like unplanned planning or like planning on the fly. Like I don't go into something completely, it never hits 8:00 and I don't know where we're sleeping. If we didn't have kids, it probably would happen quite frequently. But with the kids, you can't mess around with that. Like they need to have some element of safety and security and knowing that mom and dad have this handled, even though we're literally sleeping on the side of a road tonight.
Yeah. Well, I'm like keeping kind of like a schedule too, like if 8:00 is like bedtime, like we'll have a place. So yeah,
exactly.
Plays into it. But yeah, I love that. It's like, I'm planning, but having all the tools you need in order, or no, it's the reverse of that. So it's like, it's maybe not planning everything out, but you have all the tools you need to plan on the go when you need to.
Yeah.
So
planning by the seat of your pants.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. That's my type. I like that. What have some of the challenges been besides, small spaces?
Everyone always says that the small space is less of a challenge than you think. Honestly, the biggest challenge with the small space is now that the kids are older, they're going to be 12, 10, and 7 this year. So we're not talking about little tiny babies anymore, right?
Yeah.
Now that they're older, they have their own bedroom. They each have their own private bunk with curtains in their bedroom. They have a TV in there. They have a half bath. Like they don't have to leave that room. but they have spilled out and taken over the living room. So they basically like they'll sleep out there. Like they're comfortable sleeping in the living room because they like being together, which is a huge benefit. They actually mostly enjoy each other. And so yeah, I'll wake up in the morning and it'll be like a frat house in my living room. They'll all be sleeping out there with their drinks and their devices scattered around on the floor. And the biggest challenge with that has been that we have nowhere to go hang out now other than outside or in our bedroom. So I now sleep in here. I work in here because I've got an office set up in our bedroom, and we watch TV in here when we watch TV. And other than that, I'm in the kitchen or outside.
I guess the good thing is you can always escape outside.
Yes. And you absolutely always can escape outside. And that's part of the benefit. You don't like the weather, hook up and move. Like,
oh my gosh, that's so true. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny. I'm like, I never even thought of that. But yeah, if the weather is shit, you can just pack up and go somewhere else.
Yeah, we did that on our trip on Vancouver Island. It started pouring rain in Campbell River, so we looked at the weather app, we looked at the radar, we were like, oh, it's nice in Parksville. Bye. And just left and went to sunshine and had a great day. It was awesome.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Yeah, that never even like crossed my mind, but you can totally do that. Love that.
Same with your neighbors. If you hate your neighbors, just hook up and move.
Yes, those are two huge pros to but so I'm curious, and I feel like this might be kind of like a hard question to answer because it's like asking you to maybe like pick your favorite child or something, but out of all the things that you love about being nomadic and living the RV life, what do you love the most?
Conversations. I love talking about it. I meet the coolest people all the time. Like, you cannot go into an RV campground and like, okay, there's the drunk weekenders that are just there because they don't have to drive anywhere and they can have a party. Yeah, you find those people. But then there are families who are from a completely different country who came to Canada to do a cross-country road trip. There's like the guy I met at an airport once who like invented some of the technology that we use every day that I got to sit and have an hour-long conversation with because our flight was delayed. If you're willing to get out and actually talk with people, you meet the coolest people, even just by saying things like, yeah, no, we're here on our cross Canada trip. I make it a practice to go into small coffee shops everywhere I go. Yeah, I'm basic. I love my Starbucks, but when we're traveling, I hit the small coffee shops because you get the stories. We went into this one coffee shop in Port Hardy. I walked in, I ordered a coffee for myself. I ordered a coffee for hubby or some hot chocolates for the kids and some breakfast stuff because we were about to head back to Campbell River. I said, where can I get like a magnet or a sticker or a patch or like a memento? Because we always collect things everywhere we go. They're like, oh, well, if you go downstairs into the bookstore, she might have something there. Because it's a coffee shop and a bookstore and a craft market upstairs, right?
Oh,
these kitschy little places. I love them. So we go downstairs. I get talking with the lady at the till, and we tell her, we're starting off the first leg of our cross Canada trip by seeing the whole island. She tells me about her entire cross Canada trip in the 70s and how she listened to nothing but CBC radio the whole way, and she got such a taste of local music and artists that she still loves to this day. And we chatted. I said, where can I get a sticker? And she said, oh, go upstairs. They might have something there in the craft market or a magnet. I go upstairs and they've got puppies. They have little puppies. They're like trading puppies in the store. So I'm over the moon. And I go in and they've got this entire collective of like art on consignment from local artists. I find this little glass magnet made from sea glass. It says Port Hardy on it. I get talking with the cashier. She is the mom of the cashier downstairs. The cashier downstairs owns the whole freaking building.
I love that.
She started the craft shop upstairs, renting it, leasing it from the people who own the coffee shop. And after her cross Canada trip, she came back, bought the whole dang coffee shop, started the bookstore downstairs. Now her mom works upstairs, her staff work the front, and she works in the bookstore.
Oh, that is so cool.
And these stories that I get, these people's stories, like I wish I could capture them and tell their stories. If I had any type of journalism ability whatsoever, I would. But it's the conversations and the stories you have with people are absolutely my favorite.
That sounds absolutely wonderful. am very much the same way when I travel. I'm very introverted, but when I travel, I try to like start conversations with strangers because yeah, you just never know who you're gonna run into and what the conversations will lead to. So that is amazing. That's good.
Yeah.
I'm like, good choice. Oh, I love that so much. Another maybe tough question. What have some of your favorite places been that you've lived or visited? And then also, what are the best moments or memories that you've had since starting your RV life?
Oh, now this is like asking me to choose my favorite child. I can't say places. I can say trips. Like when we went to Disneyland for Christmas, can you get much more magical than fake snow flittering around on like Main Street in Disneyland on Christmas Day? Like, no, you can't.
That's pretty cool.
That was amazing. And we got to stay there for free because we were in the campground. We were in the campground at Thousand Trails nearby. So we got to just enjoy the entire time and not worry about flying home and getting to the airport on time and blah, blah, blah. Like it was great. Our Rocky Mountain trip, because it was like, it was in 2020. So we got to actually see Banff and Lake Louise and all those little towns the way nobody will ever get to see them. They were half empty.
Just empty. Oh, I bet.
Because we were Canadian, we could go there. Tourists from other countries weren't allowed to travel into Canada. So these international destinations that are usually bustling with people were completely dead. We got to walk down some of the middle of streets and just walk because no one was there. It was eerie, but it was very cool, once in a lifetime experience that hardly anyone else will get. Yeah. Trying to pick places, I don't know, just water. Like anytime I can sit next to water, I'm just like, oh, is this real? Yeah.
You're like checking all the boxes of like the life I want. I'm like, yes, I'm drawn to water. I agree. Like put me near water and like, let me chill. Check. Abandoned or / empty places. Check. Like that's one of my, like I went on I think it was like a 2 or 3 day like tour, I say loosely, of South Dakota with my mom and her best friend once when I was visiting. And it was in the off season for Deadwood, South Dakota. And the place was completely empty and it was magical because it was the same thing. Like I literally ran down the main road and we did like heel clicks and like, you know, it was so cool. It was just completely empty and like the casinos were empty. So we like had the entire like town of Deadwood to ourselves. It was a really cool experience. So yeah, as you speak, I'm like, yes, check. Yeah. These are wonderful
if you ever do make it up here, if you ever go to Vancouver Island that we were at a campground 2 weeks ago, I feel like you'll love. It's in a little town called Jordan River. You can walk to the only thing in town, which just so happens to be a coffee shop, and they make amazing espresso. Locally roasted too, which is always my jam. And you got to have the blondie for breakfast and then have a quad shot Americano to get through the rest of your day, because that's what I do. But this campground, it's run by Capital Regional District. These municipal and regional district campgrounds are these hidden gems. They're always in the coolest places. They have the best services and they're dirt cheap. We stayed literally on the ocean. Like I could spit from the back door of the camper into the ocean for $10 a night.
Oh my gosh.
It's $15 during high season. Yeah, exactly. So, and that's Canadian. So that's like what, $5 for you? Like, I don't even know.
I don't know.
So that was probably like awesome. 7 to 10, but still, that's a spot you should definitely hit up because it's not very often you actually get to camp on the water.
Oh, it sounds amazing. And I've not been to Canada yet. So that might just have to be like the trip that I make. That sounds amazing. So before we wrap up, I like to ask a kind of final question. And that is, what is one thing that you've always wanted to do? So like a bucket list item, or, you know, I guess it could also be like a place, like an RV trip or, you know, somewhere you haven't been that you want to go to. So why haven't you done it yet? And what do do you think is holding you back from checking it off the list?
This is hard for me because I am the bucket list equivalent of like that person that's hard to buy for over the holidays, because when they want something, they just go get it for themselves. I don't have a lot of things on my bucket list that I wouldn't just go do if they showed up on my bucket list, because we have that mobility, we have that freedom. Like if I really were dying to go to Singapore, I'd be there next week, you know?
Yes.
So, I mean, and that's amazing that I get to say that,
that's
right? Like
absolutely fantastic.
we have trips planned out over the next 3 years that will literally take us to every continent except Africa, South America, and Antarctica, which are after that. So like we're doing it. I would honestly say it's work related, which sounds silly, but that's one of the few areas where I'm still developing and I haven't done everything I want to do. I want to speak in front of an audience. Like I want to have a huge audience one day, and I'll probably take my RV, you know, to go stay at the conference.
Why not?
But I want to fill auditoriums, and I want to share with people that if you have a dream, if you have something that you want to do, if you want to live your life in a different way because the conventional path wasn't built for you for whatever reason, you don't need to wait for permission. You can actually just do it. Like you can put everything in storage and go stay in your camper for the entire summer, and then decide to travel extensively and get a bigger camper and never have a house again. And no one can tell you no. They can tell you you're dumb. They can tell you that they wouldn't do that. They can tell you, you know, that you're making a huge mistake, but you're the one that has to live with the consequences of doing it or not doing it. Just do it. And no, I have found out by doing things very unconventionally for the majority of my adult life, there are very few decisions that can't be undone. I could go get a house tomorrow if I wanted one. I can undo this. You know, don't wait, just do the thing. And if you find out it's not for you, undo the thing. No one's going to die.
That is maybe one of the best responses I think I've gotten. Like, honestly, no, I love that. That's like maybe some of the best advice. Yeah. Just do it, man.
Yeah. Anyone who says anything negative about what you want to do with your life is projecting their own response to them doing that in their life. Don't let that control you.
Wonderful. I mean, on that note, I think Cheryl, thank you.
I would drop the mic, but it would like wreck the audio.
I know. So. I'm like, we need to like drop the mic because that was beautiful and so true. Cool. And it has been an absolute joy having you on the podcast. And thank you so much for sharing your life, I guess, with us. It's so interesting to learn about and to talk with someone who's actually living in that type of lifestyle. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been really a blast. I've shared a lot of things I wasn't expecting to share. And I talked about bathroom stuff less than I normally do in an RVing conversation. So yes, win.
Nailed it. So thank you again so much, Cheryl, for being on the episode.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. I'll make sure to get you all the links.
Yeah. And listeners, if you have a question or comments for me or for any of my guests, including Cheryl, so if you have questions about the RV life, you can call us and leave a voicemail at 252-419-6004. You can also text your questions to that number and we will include them on a future episode of the podcast. Follow us on Instagram at Fun with Friends Podcast, and be sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. And with that, get out there, try something new, and have some fucking fun. Bye. And that's the pod.
There you have it. Thanks, as always, for listening to this week's episode. Be sure to tune in for the next one. And if you are looking for some entertainment or you're bored, I highly recommend going back and listening to some of our previous episodes. You can follow the Fun with Friends podcast on Instagram at Fun with Friends Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at FunFriendsPod1. We are also on Facebook. You can listen to the podcast on Anchor FM, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. As always, please like, rate, and review, and be sure to tell your friends about the podcast and get the word out there about it. And as always, my friends, go out there, try something new, and have some fucking fun. Bye!